Hi, this series of videos is going to walk you through the various techniques that you can use to make adjustments to your character's bone rig. Keep in mind that there are many different rigging techniques and that we're kind of focused on just one of them. In fact, it would take an entire semester to actually go through all the different variations and possibilities on how you might rig a character. Now, you've already started out with a most basic character rig that undoubtedly has a few problems and flaws that need to be cleaned up. Along with that cleanup, we're also going to look at some additions that you can put into the character to make it even more interesting and more easy to animate. First off, I'd like to point out that you can turn on and off the bones by clicking here in this box. In fact, it'll turn on and off, points and everything else. So that can be pretty useful if you just want to have a good look at your character. And you can move the parts around even if you turn this off. You're just sort of flying blind a little bit, but it does work, so it's kind of nice. Starting out, you may not need to use actions and smart bones on certain areas. First, you need to check bone placement. I've zoomed in here on this arm, and if I bend at the elbow, you'll see that that doesn't look so good. But that may not need a smart bone. It may just need the bone to be adjusted. So in the tools, I can just go over here and click on Transform Bone, and then find out what I need to do in order to make it right. It may need to be moved up or down. It may need to be lengthened or shortened. All right, so you have to play around with that and then test by going back to Manipulate Bone and then seeing if that helped or if there's some other adjustment that you can make. All right, so it's trial and error, and you start to get a pretty good feel for what's working. Okay, you see that's a little bit better there. So that just takes some time, and you just have to continue to work on that. Moving, reshaping. Remember, on the wide end of the bone, when you click here, it moves it. And on the small end of the bone, it scales it. Okay? So you can go and check all your bones and see if they need that type of adjustment first. Now, once you feel that you've gotten everything shaped up about as best that you can in terms of the bone scaling and the distance between each bone, you may still want to make some adjustments, and you can do that with the smart bones. For example, with the muscle bulge in the upper arm. So if you haven't done this already, one thing that's very helpful, it's so important, is if you've named all your bones. So I'm clicking here on this Select Bone drop down and showing you that I do have names for all of my bones so that I don't get confused, as opposed to the default name, which are letters and numbers. Okay, that just makes it harder for you. It's easier in the long run to go through each bone and give it some kind of a name. Let's say I do want to make a little muscle bulge when this arm bends here at the elbow. Obviously, the bone that's going to affect that is going to be the lower arm bone, right? It's going to be that if this bone gets moved, then we're going to see some change here in this part of the body. Remember to be on frame 0 when you start working with these actions, and click over here on the Select Bone tool just to get everything back to the default location. And then next, if you click up here to Window and Docking, and then click on Actions, it's going to dock the actions, and that's going to help you a lot while you go through this process. So with this bone selected, and then here on the Actions tab, I'll click on the new action, and right away it's identified the bone that I have selected, arm, lower, front, and I'll click OK. Now I'm in the sub-timeline for this bone. I'll go over to Tools, and I'll click on the Transform Bone, and then click on this bone, and move it in the direction that it would move in order to create a bulge here in this upper arm. It has created keyframes. So now I need to go to the layer in the layers palette that has this vector object and move the points around. So that would be my front arm. Here it is right here. And let me move my character around a little bit, maybe zoom in. And it could be a little bit difficult for me because of where I placed points. And in that case, if you needed to, you may need to go back to square one and put points in where they need to be, okay? So that would mean backtracking entirely. It's something that you might want to look into before you even get to this point in the process. But I'm just going to wing it and work with this the best I can. All right, using the transform points icon and clicking here on this. Yeah, that's going to look kind of strange, but well, just wing it because I think you understand the point. So I've moved these around here, and then I'll go back and test. Remember, it's very important you go back to main line. So I'll double click here, and then I can go ahead and click on the top level of the character so that I have access to the manipulate bone icon right there. Okay. And then when I move this, all right, you'll see I got this muscle bulge. Doesn't look great, but it's working, okay? It's happening. These actions can also be used to fix flaws that didn't seem to be correctable by adjusting bones. And we'll get to that in the next video, but why don't you go ahead first and try and do a couple of things with the same procedure, say like a muscle bulge in the arm, and then continue on to the next video.